I still remember the exact moment I got the message from my brother. It was one of those late October nights when the air feels heavy, like something's about to happen, and the world outside your window seems quieter than usual. My phone buzzed, and there it was, his name lighting up the screen. I smiled at first. I always did when I saw his messages, even if we hadn't talked much lately. But this one was different. It wasn't the usual, "Hey, what's up?" or the random memes he loved sending. It was short. Just 3 words. "Don't come yet." I stared at it for a long time, my heart picking up speed, my stomach twisting. My brother, Mark, was never vague. He never left things hanging. So why now? Why those words? I remember pacing around my tiny apartment, rereading the message over and over, trying to make sense of it. My mind ran in circles, imagining every scenario, each one worse than the last. And that's when the first pang of fear hit me. You see, Mark had been planning a road trip that weekend. Something spontaneous, something reckless, just like him. And I had been planning to surprise him at the gas station, where he said he'd stop before heading out. I was supposed to see him that night. I was supposed to laugh with him, hear him complain about the cold, grab a coffee, maybe even tease him about leaving me behind. But the message changed everything. I froze, fingers hovering over the keyboard, wondering if I should call him. Should I ignore it? Should I go anyway? Deep down, I didn't want to admit that the warning in his words made my chest tighten, made me feel helpless. I tried to convince myself it was probably nothing. Maybe he'd sent it accidentally. Maybe he just didn't want me tagging along. But the longer I stared at the words, the more they felt like a lifeline thrown too late, like a warning I couldn't fully understand yet. And that's when the sense of dread hit me, the kind that creeps up your spine and refuses to let go. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every noise outside my window felt amplified. Every shadow seemed alive. And I kept imagining the worst, even as I tried desperately to push it away. I didn't know it then, but those 3 words, those 3 simple, haunting words, would be the last thing he ever sent me. I never imagined that a single message, a single moment of hesitation, would change everything. That it would echo in my mind for years, replaying itself like a cruel loop I couldn't escape. That it would haunt me every time I closed my eyes, every time I remembered him. And yet, I had to know. I had to understand what really happened that night, and why he sent those words. Because some things, once they happen, you can't just forget, no matter how much you wish you could. But what I didn't know then was that reading those words was just the beginning. The real nightmare was only about to start. Mark and I had always been close, but not in the way people think of siblings who share everything. Our bond was quieter, deeper, like we had our own secret language, a trust built over years of teasing, fighting, and laughing until our stomachs hurt. Growing up, he was the fearless one, always dragging me into his reckless adventures. I was the cautious one, always worrying, always thinking 5 steps ahead. Somehow, that balance worked for us. By the time we were in our 20s, Mark had this habit of disappearing for days. He'd take off on a road trip, or a last-minute gig, or some wild idea he read about online. And even though I'd worry like crazy, I never stopped him. I'd wait, check my phone constantly, count the hours, and somehow he'd always come back with a story I'd never forget. That's just who he was, full of life, full of danger, full of surprises. The night of the message, I remembered him joking about taking a new route, somewhere he'd never been before. He said he wanted to see the sunrise over a lake tucked away in the mountains. I could almost hear him laughing as he texted me that morning. "Trust me, you'll never see anything like it." But Mark had never been this cryptic before. "Don't come yet." It wasn't like him to leave me guessing. And the way he said it, it sounded urgent, almost scared. My mind raced, trying to remember any hint, any warning he'd given me leading up to that day. Had he seemed off? Nervous? Distant? I tried to picture him clearly. His easy smile, the way he ruffled his hair, the confident swagger he carried even when he was wrong. But now, all I could see was the shadow of something darker creeping into that image. I thought about the people he'd met on past trips, the stories he'd told me. Some were fun, some wild, and some, well, they had a strange edge to them. And that night, I realized maybe I hadn't paid enough attention to the little warnings he'd left in his stories, the ones I brushed off as jokes. My mind kept circling back to the message. I could feel the tension building in my chest, like I was waiting for something I didn't want to see. The kind of tension that makes your stomach churn, that makes you check every sound, every shadow, every little detail in your apartment. I felt that same knot in my throat I'd felt as a kid when Mark came home late after some daredevil stunt. Only this time it was stronger. He wasn't just running late. Something had changed, and I couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't random. And then there was the one thought I couldn't get out of my head. What if he had tried to warn me about something that was already happening? Something I couldn't see yet, something that was beyond my control? I wanted to call him, to insist he tell me everything. But part of me hesitated. That hesitation would haunt me forever. I didn't know it then, but the line between life and death, safety and danger, was already thinner than I realized. And deep down, I knew the night wasn't going to end the way any of us expected. The next morning, I couldn't wait any longer. I had to know what was happening. I grabbed my coat and my keys and headed toward the gas station where Mark had said he'd stop. My stomach twisted the entire way there, and every honk of a car, every shadow on the street, made me flinch. It was like the city itself had turned into some tense, waiting room, holding its breath along with me. When I pulled up, the station was empty except for the flickering neon sign and the faint hum of a distant truck engine. No Mark. My phone buzzed again. Another message, but this one wasn't from him. It was from a number I didn't recognize. Didn't listen, did you? I froze. My fingers shook as I stared at the screen. My mind raced. Was this some kind of prank? Someone trying to scare me? But the tone, it felt personal, almost intimate in a terrifying way. I tried calling Mark, but the line went straight to voicemail. I walked around the station, checking every corner, every shadow, my heart hammering against my ribcage. The air felt thick, like it was pressing down on me. I kept thinking I'd see him pop out from behind the pumps, laughing and waving, telling me it was all a joke. But the closer I got to the edge of the lot, the heavier the silence felt. Then I saw it. A tire mark in the gravel, fresh and deep. It wasn't just a car that had stopped here. Someone had come and gone in a hurry. And next to it, something small caught my eye. A crumpled piece of paper. I picked it up. It was a note, messy, almost frantic, in Mark's handwriting. Help. Don't trust anyone. My chest tightened. I knew instantly that something was wrong, something serious. But what? Who? And why now? My hands were trembling as I tried to piece it together, each thought worse than the last. The city noises around me seemed distant, muffled, like I was in some bubble where only fear existed. And then I heard it, a faint sound from the edge of the lot. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Coming closer. I spun around, searching for whoever, or whatever, was there, but the shadows were empty. My breath came faster. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but something rooted me in place. I had no idea what I was walking into. I had no idea what had happened to my brother, or if I'd even see him again. All I knew was that whatever was out there, it wasn't just waiting. It was hunting. I didn't move. I couldn't. The footsteps kept coming, slow and steady, crunching over the gravel in the empty lot. My mind screamed at me to run, to hide, to do anything, yet my body refused. Every instinct told me something was wrong, something beyond a simple misunderstanding or prank. Then a voice cut through the silence, low and unnerving. You shouldn't have come. It sounded familiar, terrifyingly familiar. My chest tightened as my thoughts spun, searching for whose voice it could be, but it didn't matter. Whoever it was had Mark. Or maybe worse, had already done something I couldn't imagine. I backed toward my car, trying to steady my breathing, heart hammering like a drum in my ears. My hands were slick with sweat as I fumbled for the keys. The headlights from the gas station cast long shadows, and in every corner, every flicker of light, I imagined him, Mark, being trapped, hurt, or worse. Then, a movement at the edge of the lot caught my eye. Something small, darting. I squinted and my stomach dropped. A backpack. I recognized it instantly. Mark's. Tossed into the dirt like it didn't matter, like someone wanted me to see it. I ran over, ripped it open, and found his wallet, some scattered cash, and a phone. The screen was cracked, smeared with dirt, and when I powered it on, a single video file was blinking. My hands shook as I tapped it. The screen lit up with shaky footage. Mark's face appeared, pale and frantic. If you're seeing this, I didn't make it. There, the camera jerked violently, and then the shot went dark. I couldn't breathe. I sank to the ground, clutching the phone. Tears blurred my vision as 1,000 questions crashed through my mind. Who was they? Where was Mark? And most importantly, was he even still alive? Then, a sound behind me, soft, deliberate, made me spin around. Empty lot. But the air felt thick, almost alive, as if someone, or something, was watching me. My pulse raced. I wanted to scream, to run, but my legs refused to obey. I was trapped between fear and desperation, unable to act, unable to think clearly. Every instinct told me I had to find him. But every rational thought screamed that the moment I left this spot, I might be walking straight into danger. I could feel it, like a weight pressing down on my chest, suffocating me. Something was coming. Something I couldn't see. Something that had already changed everything. And then, from the shadows, a whisper. Just one word. My blood ran cold. Mark, it wasn't him. Not his voice. Not really. And yet it was. Somehow. I didn't know if I was ready to face what was waiting, but I knew I had no choice. The truth was inches away, but I had no idea how much it would shatter my world. I barely had time to process the whisper before my phone buzzed again. Another message, this time from Mark's number. My hands shook as I opened it. I never sent the first message. It wasn't me. You have to run. My head spun. Not his message. Not the warning. But then, what did that make the crumpled note, the video, all of it? Someone had been pretending. Someone had been manipulating me from the start. A movement behind me made me spin around again. Shadows shifted unnaturally, and for the first time, I noticed them, figures, just beyond the light, watching. Too many. Not human, at least not entirely. Panic surged through me, icy and unstoppable. And then I realized the worst part. If Mark hadn't sent the warning, if he was already in their hands, whatever I thought I knew about who was safe, who I could trust, it was all wrong. I had walked straight into their trap. And now, there was no turning back. I ran. There was no time to think, no time to question anything. Every step was a fight against the fear clawing at me from the inside. The shadows followed, twisting and shifting like living smoke, whispering my name in voices that weren't human, yet somehow familiar. Then I saw him. Mark. He was kneeling in the middle of an abandoned alley, tied up, bruised, but alive. Relief hit me like a punch to the chest, and I sprinted toward him. Mark, I shouted, my voice cracking. He looked up, eyes wide and terrified. Go? They're watching us. Before I could ask anything, the figures emerged from the darkness. Too many to count, their faces hidden, bodies impossibly fast. I realized then that I was completely outmatched. I grabbed a loose pipe from the ground, swinging blindly, heart hammering, adrenaline surging through every vein. Mark screamed something, and I turned just in time to see him slip free of one of the attackers, somehow, but the group was closing in. I grabbed his arm, pulling him toward a back exit, and we bolted. Our lungs burned, our legs screamed, but neither of us stopped. Every corner we turned felt like another trap, every shadow a potential end. Finally, we burst into a deserted street, and I thought, maybe, just maybe, we were safe. But then Mark's phone rang. He hesitated, and I saw it. The number was the same as before, the same one that had sent the warning I never should have trusted. He answered. A calm, cold voice said one thing. Good job, but you brought them to me. I froze. Mark's eyes went wide, not at the voice, but at me. Wait, what do you mean? I whispered. And that's when I understood. The real danger wasn't just the strangers in the shadows. The real threat had been closer than I ever imagined. I stared at Mark, heart pounding, as the cold realization sank in. The danger hadn't been out there in the shadows. It had been here, close enough for me to trust, close enough for me to walk right into it. And worse, I had almost believed it was only about saving him. Mark took a deep breath, his hands trembling. I thought I could handle it alone, he said quietly. I didn't want to drag you into it. But they're smarter than we imagined. And they knew if they scared you enough, you'd do exactly what they wanted. I sank onto the curb, exhausted, shaking. For a moment, all I could do was breathe, feel the cold air on my face, and let the adrenaline drain from my body. And then, slowly we talked. We pieced together what had happened, the deception, the warnings, the messages. The strangers, whoever they were, weren't just dangerous. They were playing a game, and Mark had been caught in the middle. But we survived. Somehow, together, we had made it out. And sitting there in the quiet aftermath, I realized something. The fear, the confusion, the near loss. All of it had taught me something I hadn't understood before. That life is fragile. That trust is a choice, but love is what makes the choice worth taking. That sometimes, the people we think will protect us are the ones who need saving the most. Mark looked at me, exhausted, and half smiled. Next time, you're coming with me from the start. No secrets, no risks we can't handle together. I nodded, relief and gratitude washing over me in waves. Somehow, even in the darkest chaos, we still had each other. We walked home in silence, side by side, carrying the weight of what had happened, but also the unspoken promise that we'd face whatever came next together. The night that had begun with a single cryptic message ended with a sense of fragile safety, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, human connection, love, family, trust could be our light. But even as we reached the doorstep of my apartment, I felt that familiar knot in my stomach. Something about that night didn't feel completely over. The shadows, the voices, the game they had been playing, it wasn't finished. I glanced at Mark, and he met my gaze, eyes wide, uncertain. For a brief second, I wondered if the danger had truly left us, or if it was only waiting for the next time we let our guard down. And somewhere, deep down, I knew it wasn't just the strangers who had been playing a game. It was a reminder that life has a way of testing us in ways we can't always predict, and sometimes, even when the nightmare ends, its echoes never truly leave. The last message I ever received from my brother before that night, the one that haunted me for months, had been a warning I barely understood. But now I understood something else, too. Some messages are not just warnings, they're lessons, and I would never forget it.